Do you ever think that your homeboy is gay, but can't prove it? Just because he got a wife and a kid that he doesn't care about? If yes, then today's manhwa is just for you. So with your detective glasses on, let's begin our recap. The manhwa opens with maids rushing about, helping the queen through childbirth. But something is wrong, terribly wrong. The baby is breathing faintly. Our female protagonist freezes, her brain glitching like a Wi-Fi. Back at school, the teachers didn't even let them watch those childbirth videos, and now she's seeing it live in 4K with surround sound. She is validly hoping that someone will appear out of nowhere with a walkie-talkie, usher her out, and tell her this is just a restricted area. And if that's the case, then please, someone, for the love of all things holy, tell her this is just a dream. But her mind won't let her off that easy. It whispers that this is exactly what she thinks it is. Then again, none of it even makes sense to her, so she spirals, wondering what in the multiverse is even happening right now. The head maid shoves her forward, snapping at her like, "Girl, what are you doing? Go get some hot water." And, excuse me, her name is Ash? The sound of it makes her realize this feels way too real to be some random fever dream. The sweat, the groans of the queen, who by the way doesn't even let out a scream while giving birth, and every single detail is painfully vivid. Then the head maid announces the words that slap everyone in the room. It's the prince. The hall fills with the sound of congratulations. The queen takes the child in her arms, but Ash notices instantly that she seems oddly indifferent for someone who just went through labor. But the other maids wave it off, assuring her that they've already informed the king and he'll be here soon. For now, the queen just has to rest. The head maid then orders everyone else to leave and asks the lords nearby if they know of a mirror in the palace. Ash pipes up, saying she feels like freshening up, but the blonde girl beside her points out that Ash's hair looks like it just went 12 rounds with a tornado and really needs fixing. She guides Ash, saying there's a mirror in the side room down the hall. Ash drags herself there, muttering internally like she's on autopilot. At first, she thinks it's a bathroom, but then she spots the mirror and her reflection stops her cold. The face staring back is exactly the same face she had in Seoul. No wonder this body felt suspiciously familiar to her. She gulps, mind screaming, "Okay, so this is a fantasy world. Period. End of story." She's definitely not in Seoul anymore. There are literal maids in frilly uniforms straight out of a webtoon serving the queen. If this isn't a movie set or a dream, then fine. She really did end up in another world. At first, she tries to hype herself up. Like, yeah, she can handle this, easy. But her confidence cracks faster than her phone screen on day one, and she just wants someone, anyone, to come rescue her. Back when she was a high schooler, she used to binge fantasy novels like there was no tomorrow. She'd always daydream about being whisked away to another world. It was something she desperately wished for, especially during her college entrance exams, when life felt like one giant "you shall not pass" meme. She wanted to go somewhere magical, somewhere people would tell her how much they needed her. But reality slapped her back then. No handsome man ever appeared to say he was here to take her away. No owls flew to her window carrying a letter of destiny. In her 20s, she had finally accepted the cold, hard truth. There was no knight in shining armor, no charming prince, no enchanted portal waiting to carry her off into the sunset. So why? Why in the multiverse does this have to happen now? And, as if fate hadn't already trolled her enough, she looks the same as she did in Seoul. This is seriously too cruel. Ash finally reaches the stage of admitting the obvious. She's here, stuck in this fantasy world. And the kicker? She's just a commoner. No special first-class perks, no divine blessings, no golden cheat codes, nothing. But then her mind derails into the most random thought ever. Wait, what happened to her ramen? She remembers exactly how it went down. She had been prepping her food with dedication, chewing on ideas while waiting for the soup to boil. She sliced mushrooms, chopped onions, letting the broth deepen into that heavenly MSG-rich glory. Then came the moment of glory. She sprinkled cheese over it. And that was exactly when she suddenly found herself yeeted into this new world. Now she's here, surrounded by a squad of maids, all of them bowing with their heads down. Ash blinks and looks around, completely lost. Then one of the maids whispers at her, urgently to put her head down too. She doesn't even have time to react before the king himself enters the queen's room. All the maids tense, like a group bows down when the king arrives. The maid sits up, thinking, wait, why would the king drag that boy in with him? What kind of madness is this? She can't believe the queen, who literally just gave birth, has to deal with something this messy. Ash is confused and blurts out, asking the maids what's wrong. Everyone freezes, their faces horrified, as if she just confessed to eating rice with a fork. They all whisper among themselves and finally ask if she's gone mad too. Ash tells herself to chill. Stay calm, she can do this. Then she insists she doesn't see anything weird here. The other maids stare at her, like she's grown 2 heads. They question her again, asking if she really hasn't seen that man. Ash, brain still buffering, asks them if they mean the guy standing beside the king. She squints and says, "Oh, him? That's Uriel." And right at that dramatic second, the door bursts open. The king steps out, and Ash notices something shocking. The queen looks young, but the king is just as young as her. And there, standing beside him, is Uriel. Ash nearly drops. This guy could have made it into the K-pop industry with that face. No problem. He radiates main character energy. Maybe he's a priest. Maybe he's a dragon disguised in human form, here to save the world. Then Uriel casually calls the king by his actual name, Evan. All the maids gasp like they've just seen spoilers for a new season drop. Even Ash flinches at the audacity. The king himself pauses, then awkwardly apologizes to Uriel, and just like that, the two of them leave together. Mina whispers that she feels sorry for the queen. Ash sneaks a glance at the woman, and what she sees makes her chest tighten. The queen's face is blank, not happy, not tired, just lifeless, expressionless, like a doll. Ash finally gets it. Finally, she understands what's going on here. And the realization is colder than the ramen she left unfinished. There is this novel about a younger and powerful king and a beautiful young man named Uriel. They love each other with a devotion that makes readers sigh. Uriel is happier to receive a single flower, picked by the king, than to claim all the world's riches, while the king himself would much prefer to share a humble sip of water with his beloved young man than taste any other delicacy alone. They gladly share their most valued possessions with one another, because honestly, nothing matters more to them than their love. It is one of those common novels, the kind that makes readers clutch their chests, because they are touched by the true and beautiful romance. But, of course, there has to be a problem. The only hindrance to their relationship is, who else? The queen. The woman who holds the one position the king can never give to his male concubine. Their marriage is arranged back when the king is still young. The queen is appointed only to give birth to the king's heir. Her destiny as the wife of the king, the main character of this story, is obvious. She is brought into the palace and made queen without even having a proper wedding ceremony. Uriel once comments that the queen's palace is really pretty. And just like that, she is robbed of her palace by the male concubine. When the concubine says he envies the queen because she can accompany the king to official events, the queen is suddenly prohibited from participating in all of them. While she is living quietly in one of the royal villas, she ends up placed under house arrest just because she accidentally encounters the king and his concubine going for a stroll together. Later, even the baby she gives birth to is taken away and handed over to the concubine like some messed up royal trade deal. Ash reads all this and gets seriously mad, like she's about to flip a table. Just reading it makes her wonder how long the poor queen has to suffer. Still, the queen remains a wise and kind woman until the day she dies from an illness. Ash groans, realizing that it looks like the queen really does end up dead in this novel. If Ash herself is the main character, then sure, she could easily return to her own world by following the original story. But how is she supposed to go back if she is only a minor character? That basically means she has no choice but to survive here until the queen eventually dies, which is kind of tragic, and not at all slay. That thought might explain why Mina asks Ash what is wrong, since she has been sitting there all quiet for a long time. Still, she knows she has to get information from Mina without accidentally revealing that she is not actually Ash. She wonders if she will even be able to pull it off. With a sigh, Ash decides she is going to bed early today. She is afraid of reliving the whole chaotic experience in her dreams, but Mina gently assures her that she will have sweet dreams. Mina then says she will go chat with others in the other room and tells Ash not to worry about coming along, promising she can rest in peace. Ash lies down in her bed, trying to understand the situation. These are the maids' quarters located inside the queen's palace. 2 maids share one room, and Ash's roommate is Mina, who has just left. The maid with blue eyes she talked to earlier is Ellie, and the maid who lives in the room next door is Sev. First, Ash should try to remember their names. Next, she knows she should gather more information by visiting other rooms while following Mina around. Later that night, Ash goes out of her room. Their room is at the corner of the corridor, and besides their own, there is only one other room. She knocks on the door and calls out to Sev, saying that she needs to ask her something, as if she's checking who it is first. When Mina left the room, she secretly went through Ash's belongings. What she found were 2 music boxes, 1 fountain pen, some cosmetics, and a few pieces of jewelry. She was hoping to find a diary, but there wasn't anything that could tell her more about this world or about Ash. Could it be that Ash was the one who summoned her here? In the original story, Uriel was a person literally born to be loved. He was like an angel radiating love and charm, the type of character who makes readers swoon. The maids, however, all referred to him as a sly fox. After the prince was born, the king never came to see the queen again. But Uriel was often found walking near the gates of the queen's palace, and just yesterday, he even came inside the queen's palace. The maids start to murmur nervously, wondering what they should do. They just stand around, unsure of their next move. Uriel soon leaves, but his visit leaves everyone feeling uncomfortable, like the palace energy is way off. They're scared that something bad is about to go down. And then a maid bursts into the room shouting that they are in big trouble. His Majesty is here, and he has brought soldiers. The maids can't believe it. What kind of husband brings soldiers to his wife's palace, especially when she is still recovering from childbirth? Like, sir, make it make sense. Could it be that he is here to snatch away the prince? Ash remembers now. Oh, duh. The soldiers are not exactly here for that, but rather to arrest the maids who are close to the queen. The queen, poor woman, has no actual power or authority, yet the king still makes sure she has absolutely nothing left to lean on. Just to prove a point, and to keep her in check, he occasionally storms her palace, kicking up drama like some messy influencers starting beef online for clout. Mina goes and asks the other maids if they are all right, and the maids are left wondering what in the world the king even wants this time. Mina explains that she heard it is because they were rude to that sly fox, and Sev immediately bursts with confusion because they did literally nothing. Mina, ever the realist, says that's the whole point. The king considered doing nothing itself an insult. Sev snaps like, what, does they expect them to welcome him wholeheartedly or something? And Ash, internally, is like, yeah, that is literally exactly what the king expects. And so, Ash decides that maybe this is what they should do. She goes out and greets Uriel directly, asking how he would like to be served, and everyone around is collectively shooketh. Even the sly fox never lets his smile fade, and Ash keeps her tone calm, her manner polished, like she has been prepped for this moment by years of part-time jobs and side hustles that taught her customer service survival skills. Yet, it stings a little because the other girls are staring at her as if she has completely lost her marbles. Uriel asks her what her angle is, and she, keeping her gray explanations low-key, says she simply wants to know what he wishes to do here. He, of course, replies that he would like to see the prince. Ash calls out to Susa, the head lady, announcing that Uriel is here to see the prince. Susa gives a side-eye sharp enough to slice bread, but says fine, she will inform the queen. Uriel steps forward and sees the prince, greeting him like some living piece of divine artwork. The child plays with him without hesitation, and honestly, it feels like watching a statue of the Virgin Mary suddenly come to life, dazzling and immaculate. This whole situation further confirms Ash's suspicion that in this world, looks are literally the currency, the entire economy, the cheat code, everything. On the other side, though, Susa is glaring at Ash like she is ready to commit a felony, her eyes practically throwing daggers. Poor Ash, though, has no other choice. She does not have any special abilities, cheat buffs, or magic powers to fall back on. If playing along with the palace's absurd beauty contest rules is what it takes for her to survive as a maid here, then so be it. Handsome men arrive at the queen's palace. 2 of them, to be precise. The first is Alex Mutcher, a guard the queen brought over from her paternal family. He is that quiet, stoic type, a serious man who hardly ever speaks, the human embodiment. The queen relies on him as if he were her older brother, yet, like every predictable character in these messy palace dramas, he too falls in love with Uriel at first sight. Simp energy detected. The second guy is Mio Zodiac, the prince's personal guard, who is even worse because his love for Uriel is so delusional that he actually whispers lies into the ears of the young prince, just so that boy will grow up despising his own mother. Talk about toxic. The queen, not fooled by appearances, asks Mio if he is being sent by the king. Mio replies yes and swears upon his life to protect the royal family. Ash, watching, notices that it is basically a Knight's Oath cosplay performance. The queen then orders the maids to hand the prince over, and unlucky Ash is the one chosen. She goes, delivers the boy to Mio, and hears the queen announce that Mio will now be the guard of the prince. The queen also instructs the maid Ash, again unlucky, to make sure the little prince grows comfortable around Mio. To top it off, she tells Mio to take the room directly across from the prince's quarters. She even asks him whether he will be coming back soon. Mio smoothly mentions that he first needs to go give a report to the king and then return with his belongings. The queen, ever sharp, requests him to thank the king on her behalf for sending a guard to the prince before she even bothers giving Mio a formal title. Ash can already tell that the queen is no pushover, no meek and soft little court lady, but someone who plays this ruthless palace game with steel under silk. Later that night, Mina asks Ash what is running through her brain today. Ash hands over the blanket, trying to dodge the question, but Mina, being Mina, adds that she heard the head maid wants Ash to go and see the nanny tomorrow. Ash is confused. Why her? Tomorrow is her laundry duty. Mina explains that Sev was supposed to go, but she broke her leg. Ash, startled, asks how that even happened. Mina casually says that actually Pepe pushed Sev. Ash wonders if maybe it was some clumsy accident, but Mina shakes her head, saying Ash is lacking the tea. She spills it. Sev had been fooling around with Pepe's boyfriend, so Pepe pushed her as payback. Ash is left gaping, and Mina tries to defend Pepe, saying he was really a sweetheart. Ash scoffs, yeah, sure, a sweetheart who cheats. This palace is crawling with toxic people. There are too many horrible humans in this world, period. Ash never could have imagined that something truly horrifying would happen on the day she went to help the nanny in Sev's place. The king appears out of nowhere, asking the nanny if she is the one the queen brought from her house. The nanny, loyal and straightforward, replies, yes, that this girl has been serving the queen since childhood. And just like that, the king stabs the nanny. No hesitation, no ceremony, just pure cruelty. He then announces, coldly, that she is under arrest for colluding with a dark magician. Ash, sitting nearby, trembles so badly she thinks she might collapse. The blood splatters onto her clothes, staining them, and the iron scent makes her dizzy with fear. As guards drag the body away, she can barely hold herself together. The king then calls out to Uriel. His voice, shockingly, is smooth and warm-like. He just switched from villain stabbing people mode to romantic lead mode, and the contrast is jarring. He even points out that Uriel has gotten blood on his face too, gently asking him to forgive the mess. Ash, watching this grotesque double standard, cannot believe it. To her, this king is total trash-certified garbage tier. Uriel thinks to himself that he always believed Ash to be just an ordinary serving maid, and while giving her his hand, he reflects that this must be insanely shocking for her too. She holds his hand rapidly, and he notices that she is really trembling as she faces this frightening scene. She adds in her own heart that they had no choices, because she could have simply run away. The king then asks him if she is the maid he mentioned before. Uriel nods to that, and the king suddenly grabs her face and demands her name. She nearly breaks while whispering her name, and the king points out that, actually, they are in desperate need of a new maid for his son, and he thinks she will totally be able to handle the job right. And just like that, she is handed the baby. Seeing the queen here, she dashes toward her, but the queen only glances at her, then at the unfolding scene, and leaves. The head maid calls out to Ash. Ash explains in her own mind that the king himself has asked her to take care of the prince, but she doesn't even know how to handle a baby. She can see crystal clear that no one is here to save her from the situation. The head maid points out that it doesn't even matter, because she is being hired directly by the king, so she can't say anything against it. And just like that, she becomes the nanny of the prince. She writes in her inner notes that it has already been a month since she came to this world. She has finally figured out her full name. She does think it is strange, because whenever the prince is mentioned in the story, he always appears with the Grim Reaper and the young lady nanny, and it looks exactly like that. The nanny's name is Ash Tolian, yet she still remains just an insignificant minor character. If she wants to survive, she knows she has to choose from these three options. The first is to follow the original plot and befriend the main character. The second is to flip the script and alter the story. And the third is to do absolutely nothing. Nothing. She sighs because it feels like trying to decide whether or not she should prepare for a public exam related to her major, find a job in a totally different field, or just stay unemployed forever. But then it hits her. She is the nanny that the king himself has hired, which means no one can actually fire her. She is literally a civil servant now. Plus, she can totally stop the manipulative bastard from brainwashing the prince into making him hate his own mother. She will even be able to sing, half joking and half serious, "His daddy is a stupid butt," to the little guy someday. Later, the head maid tells her that every nanny for the royal family becomes a life peer. But Ash's case is rather special, and she hopes Ash understands this. Ash gets way too excited, because that must mean everyone is secretly dying to marry her, right? A life peer, as a noble with a title that cannot be inherited. However, if their spouse also holds a title of the same rank, their children may inherit it. A lady with a life peerage is also a super popular bride candidate for nobles who aren't the heirs in their families, or knights who also possess a life peerage. Moreover, young, single ladies who possess such titles, like Ash, are extremely scarce. She gets hyped. Guess things are finally starting to look up for me, she thinks. She even calls out in her head, "Come, young and handsome knights, your future bride awaits." The head maid interrupts, calling out to her and shattering her little daydream. She adds that the moment Ash signs this contract, she will be solely responsible for the prince's care, and she hopes Ash understands the real weight of her work. Ash mutters to herself that it's not like she can actually reject the king's orders anyway. The head maid slides the contract over to her. But oops, poor Ash can't deal with reading any of this stuff. It turns out she is totally illiterate. This is embarrassing, especially since, in her old life, she had top grades for the language portion of her college entrance exam. So dying inside, she admits to the head maid that she doesn't know how to read. The head maid sighs and says that it's obvious. Of course she was a commoner. However, since they cannot have a person with inadequate skills serving His Highness, she plans to find a teacher who will teach Ash how to read and write. Ash, all ashamed, quietly says okay and thanks her. On her very first day as a nanny, Ash moves into the room right next to the prince's chamber. The queen breastfeeds the prince thrice a day, keeping everything as routine as possible. She mentions to Ash that she has heard her name before, but she can't seem to recall it properly, so she asks for it again. After receiving the answer, the queen thanks Ash for her hard work. Ash, ever so polite, says that she will bring the prince to the queen during lunchtime, but the queen casually dismisses the idea, saying it won't be necessary because she doesn't want her room smelling like a newborn. With that, the queen leaves, basically dropping the mic like some kind of royal diva. Ash picks up the prince and can't help but think that this dear child is growing up in such a cold atmosphere. His mother doesn't seem to love him, and his father has zero interest in him. It's like the poor boy wasn't born out of love, but that isn't his fault at all. Sometimes that's just how things are in this messy world. And Ash, holding him close, feels that reality hit like a sad playlist on shuffle. Not long after, the teacher Roman arrives. Ash is instantly grateful to Susa for pulling strings and getting her such a handsome teacher. She wonders aloud if she should call him Lord or Sir. Since he has been knighted, both would technically work, but Roman suggests that perhaps calling him Mr. during lessons would be more fitting. Ash, feeling awkward, stutters through her reply, tossing out a casual "K, sure," even though she's totally cringing inside. It's super early in the morning, so early that even the maids are still sleeping and the palace feels half-dead quiet. Ash wasn't expecting much from her new life, but she definitely didn't think she'd be hitting the books while looking after a literal baby at the same time. As a result of this hectic schedule, Sir Mio has also been on standby at this hour, which makes the whole scene feel like some weird crossover episode. Roman knows it isn't easy studying at the crack of dawn, but he explains he has other business to attend to, so he apologizes for the tight schedule. Ash waves it off in her own vibe, thinking it's very kind of him to even be teaching her like this. But the reality hits fast. It's only been a single day since she went without sleep to feed the prince, and already she wants to throw in the towel on this whole nanny thing. She's barely surviving on fumes, baby cries, and royal politics, and it feels like she's on the edge of saying, "Bestie, I'm out." Roman notes that there is still room for improvement, but Ash's handwriting isn't bad at all. It looks like she has the basics down for writing, and honestly, that's already a win. Ash replies that she can read a few simple words, silently thanking the universe that the letters in this world are at least similar to the alphabet she already knows. Roman then explains that His Highness will eventually get tutors of his own, but until then, Ash will be in charge of teaching him the very basics. He suggests they should set their goal toward reaching the level where she can read storybooks aloud to His Highness. Ash nods at this plan, calling him Sir, which makes Roman smile in that annoyingly charming way, and ask her again to call him Mr. during lectures. Their eyes meet, and boom, Ash feels a sudden love attack right to her heart. She can't believe she's blushing over something like this. She feels like some awkward teenager all over again. And maybe it's because she hasn't been this close to a man in forever. The next day, she runs into that sly fox again, Uriel. He greets her by commenting that her new uniform suits her really well. Ash honestly can't decide if this is an insult wrapped in a compliment or just him messing with her head, because his tone screams chaotic energy. She wonders to herself that when the prince grows older, who will he remember most? Will it be Uriel, who sometimes sings songs to him with this weird gentle vibe? Will it be the queen, who breastfeeds him 3 times a day? And which of those memories will be the happiest one for him? Ash ends up saying aloud that it seems like Uriel really likes the prince, since she's seen him sing to the baby quite a few times. Uriel only smiles at her with that smug face, and replies that he really likes her, and is glad she's the nanny of the prince. Ash, caught completely off guard, clutches her hand to her chest, thinking that maybe, just maybe, she's glad too. She remembers The Escape, the novel this whole world comes from, and recalls how high the mortality rate in it was. But nowhere did it ever mention the prince's nanny being executed, so she guesses her character, Ash, probably won't end up dead. At least, fingers crossed. Uriel then asks for her name again, like bruh, 3rd time this week, and she tells him it's Ash. He swears he'll remember it this time, but honestly, who's going to break it to him that his memory is literally trashed here? He assures her that if the prince needs anything, she can let him know. Suddenly, the queen's weird statement about not giving the prince a name pops into Ash's mind. She blurts out that the prince needs a name and a doctor. Uriel blinks at her, totally surprised, because he wasn't expecting her to throw something like that out. Ash, flustered, insists she only said it because she thought he wanted her honest opinion. Uriel, still processing, tells her that choosing the baby's name is something his parents should do, so they should leave it to the king and queen. Ash is low-key in denial about how this guy, of all people, is actually making sense. Then he adds that he'll definitely ask the king to bring a doctor for the prince, since babies are fragile. And finally, Uriel leans closer and says he'll let her in on a secret. The king actually loves his son very much. Ash just stares at him like, wait, what? Because that revelation was not on her bingo card. Taking care of a baby is exhausting enough, but when it's someone else's child? Yeah, that's nightmare. During the day, it's somewhat bearable because Ellie shows up. Ellie is like a pro at this. She has baby handling experience coded into her DNA. But the moment the sun sets, night shifts turn into living hell. Before Ash can even process the meaning behind Uriel's words, her war as the prince's nanny begins. Sleep? Cancelled. Sanity? On backorder. She's basically respawning every night with negative stamina. Ellie, of course, makes it look easy, and Ash is just side-eyeing her like, girl, how do you even manage this circus? Ellie has the calm aura of someone who's already raised a small army. Turns out, that's not an exaggeration. Back home, she has a whole squad of younger siblings. She's basically raised herself. Ash is like, oh, slay, no wonder. But when she asks about the youngest sibling, Ellie casually drops the word dead. Ellie explains that poverty is a monster in its own right, and honestly, working here is better than straight up dying in the streets. She adds, thankfully, that many of her siblings are still alive. Ash doesn't even know what to do with that information. Like, how do you emotionally process trauma bombs while sleep deprived? Fast forward, Ash is being called out for dozing off again. She insists she wasn't dozing, she was totally awake. But nah, sis was gone, fully logged out. She cries that she's sleepy. No duh, queen. But before she can even spiral, Roman tells her to cut it out because, plot twist, he's about to grade her test. Ash, half drowsy and half embarrassed, remembers they were literally in the middle of a dictation test. Roman questions whether she even had prior education. Ash low-key flexes in her head like, yes, actually, she's a graduate with a 4.0 GPA. Roman, of course, doubts her. He thinks she might have learned from some random non-professional because, let's be real, she doesn't exactly give off Harvard vibes. Still, he admits she can read and write correctly. Sure, there are mistakes sprinkled in, but the foundation is solid. He even says he suspects she got some kind of basic education. Ash wonders if this is going to make things harder for her in the long run, but Roman waves that concern off. When she takes her test back, she can't believe her eyes. Only a few mistakes? Excuse me? This feels illegal. Roman just laughs because, considering she hasn't even been in lessons that long, her score is actually really good. Ash wants to be proud, but she's also just like, bro, I can't feel my brain right now. Meanwhile, scene change, Mina's yelling at Ash to wake up. Girl has blacked out again. Absolute wipeout. And over it all, the words float in her head. A lot of mothers cry after giving birth due to depression. Ash may not be a mother yet, but right now she feels like crying her soul out. Mina shakes her gently, reminding her that she really does need rest and should hand over the shift. Mina promises she'll cover, but Ash, parched and stubborn, insists she can't. Leaving the office without a proper reason could mean punishment, and she isn't about to gamble with that. Mina, however, reassures her again, saying she'll keep an eye on the prince. So Ash finally lets herself lean against the wall beside Mio. Eyes heavy. She remembers how Mio used to be the fan favorite among the maid's good looks, knightly aura. She wonders if that's still true now that he's walking around with sleep deprivation dark circles. Plopping against the wall, Ash mutters if he's still alive. Mio, unfazed, confirms it. Both of them are watching over the baby prince 24/7, and it's clearly draining them dry. Sir Mio is sleeping only enough to survive, which means he's already at the brink of his limit. Ash rambles on, saying she can sleep literally any time, as long as there are lights off, a pillow, and a blanket. Bare minimum, queen energy. But what about Mio? She wonders out loud. Mio calmly explains that most knights can control their sleeping patterns, like it's just a casual Jedi trick. Ash has been thinking for days that she just can't keep up with this anymore, so her brain spills out a wild idea. What if they move the baby prince into her room at night? That way she can feed him as soon as he wakes. And since she's already oversharing at this point, she even tosses in a half-delirious question. Would Mio like to sleep in her room too, as long as he isn't sensitive to noise? Mio's system immediately blue screens. He processes this madness before reminding her that it's not appropriate for a man and woman to share a room. Ash, running purely on chaotic sleep-deprived logic, argues it'd only be at night. Mio counters, saying rumors would spread. Ash, still spiraling, insists it could be their little secret anything for survival. This lack of sleep is clouding her judgment hard, and it's dangerous. She needs to stay sharp, keep her Korean self from slipping out, and also figure out what Urigel's cryptic words even meant. Babysitting has eaten all her mental bandwidth, leaving no time to strategize. If this keeps up, she might step on a metaphorical landmine sooner rather than later. Mio finally asks why she's being so considerate. At first, Ash is startled, but she laughs it off, admitting she can't just have the prince in her room without his approval. Mio reminds her that knights are trained to be alert even while asleep, ready to react at any second. Ash is relieved to hear it. At least he'll notice if something happens to His Highness. Not long after, the staff actually place a small bed in her room for the baby prince. And just like that, Ash has officially leveled up into full-time babysitter with sleep schedule permanently nerfed. When Mio first meets her, he thinks she is a very odd woman. She stretches out her hand to him, saying she is Ash and the prince's nanny. At first glance, she seems like a normal girl, but there's a certain boldness about her that doesn't quite match her modest appearance. Upon asking how she should address him, Mio casually says she can do as she wishes, which only makes her seem even stranger in his eyes. The very next day, she surprises him again by asking if he knows of any library nearby. Mio explains that the royal library is close to the gate, and she wonders out loud if they might have some books about children. In her head, she knows that having a veteran nanny teach her the ropes would be chef's kiss amazing, but since that's not happening anytime soon, she figures she'll have to improvise. Seeing the prince absent-mindedly playing with her hair, Ash remarks that he seems to be in a good mood today. Then, turning to Mio, she boldly requests that if he's already done eating, could he pretty please talk to His Highness while she finishes her meal? She assures him it won't take long. Mio reluctantly takes the prince, announcing that he's only giving her 5 minutes. Ash dives into her food, while Mio wonders what on earth he's even supposed to talk about with the child. Ash, between bites, tells him he can talk about literally anything, even his first love. Patting the prince, Mio starts speaking, saying he used to live in a house near the ocean, and that he could smell the salty breeze every morning. And just as Mio begins to find some rhythm in this strange babysitting assignment, Ash casually drops the line that Mio should hold the prince's head high enough so the little one can hear his heartbeat. Mio is low-key baffled, but he does as told. Later that night, Ash asks Mio if he has had any time to train ever since he was assigned to guard the prince. Mio replies that he hasn't, and she tilts her head, curious about whether guards normally work on a full-time basis like him. Mio explains that it was the king's will, and Ash finds that odd. Urigel once said that the king loves his son, but Ash can't help but notice. The king still hasn't named him, and he's assigned only one guard to watch over the child 24/7. The whole setup gives off some major red flag energy. Ash knows she needs more time for herself in order to gather books on childcare and get more information about this world. She sits at her table that evening and politely asks Mio if he minds her lighting the lamp. Mio says he doesn't, so she lights it, mentioning she'll keep it dim. Her first two goals were simple but critical: get the prince a name and find him a doctor. So far, she has managed to achieve the latter. Now it's time for her to set up her next batch of short-term goals, because this nanny is running her life like it's a to-do list app, and failure is not on the mood board. The next morning, Ash rushes to Roman, all hyped up, like she just downed 3 espressos. She asks him, way too excitedly, if he would like to help her edit the sheet. Before he can even react, the scene shifts, and she is already in the room, greeting the queen and Alex. Ash comments to the queen that the prince seems to be in a really good mood today. Then, with that trademark boldness of hers, she points out the prince still doesn't have a name. She wonders out loud if the queen has a name in mind. The queen replies firmly that this child is the heir to the throne, so it is only right that His Majesty be the one to give him a name. Ash can't help but think, girl, but you're literally his mom. You must have thought of a name by now. The queen, however, doesn't want to get her hopes up. After some thought, she admits that if the child were a boy, she always wanted to name him Eugene. Ash lights up, pointing out that the name really does suit the prince, who already carries himself with courage like a tiny warrior king. The queen hands little Eugene back to Ash and mentions that his milk supply seems to be decreasing. They'll probably need to switch to powdered milk soon. With that, she gracefully leaves. Ash looks down at Eugene and whispers if he is happy to finally meet his mama. She admits softly to herself that she really misses her own mom too, but then snaps out of it. This is not the time to spiral into depression. Mina comes over, asking Ash to watch the prince because she needs to do her homework. Ash doesn't mind writing the proposal at first, but the second someone calls it homework, she's out. She sulks dramatically, thinking about how all her answers were wrong, and now Roman has ordered her to review everything before their next class. She throws an internal tantrum, because seriously, who wants to be doing homework at this age? Not her, that's for sure. We see Urigel enter the room. Ash greets him with her usual spark and immediately starts flattering him, saying he really does look good in those clothes, because not many people can pull off that kind of royal drip. Urigel thanks her with his calm, composed vibe, but he points out that she looks rather tired and asks if everything is all right. Ash low-key thought he was going to ask her name again, but apparently she's now worth remembering, which is kind of a win in her book. She appreciates his concern and adds that the prince must be asleep right now. Urigel looks at the child and remarks that babies grow up pretty fast, and one day he won't be able to come here for a long while. The thought makes him sad, because what if the prince forgets about him? And honestly, that's a whole mood. Ash asks him, all sad and moody, if he is not going to come. But deep down, she is actually relieved, like low-key, praying he never shows up again. Urigel then asks her if she hasn't heard the news. He smiles all bright and dramatic, announcing that the war is finally over. Boom. Just like that chapter 1 of The Escape is closed. The war has ended, and the name of the baby prince has been announced. And of course, the baby's name is definitely not Eugene. That tea is scalding. Ash is then seen drowning again in her own little spiral when Roman calls out to her. She looks at him and straight up asks how much he is actually getting paid to do all this. The dude just greets her with a casual, good morning vibe. Ash repeats it back with a dry, yes, good morning, but adds that she was being dead serious about the question. Roman just smiles, totally unbothered, and reveals that, plot twist, he doesn't get paid at all. That makes Ash choke, and he explains further that Susa is actually his cousin. Ash immediately goes into denial mode, because, excuse her, this elvish-looking hottie and that Ice Queen headmaid are related? No way. Clearly, one of them won the genetic lottery and the other just participated. Raman then points out that Ash doesn't look too good. She shrugs and says she hears that a lot these days, so like, nothing new. He points at the sheet in her hands and asks what she wanted to write there. She replies with something like, professional kism, and he notes that she makes a lot of mistakes confusing E and A. Ash laughs it off, insisting that nobody can be perfect. But Roman drops a mini life lesson, saying those are the exact kind of thoughts that make someone lazy. Ash tries to brush it off, saying it's just an ordinary thing and, after all, both of them work super hard anyway. He looks at her seriously for a moment and even starts patting her shoulder like he's a motivational coach. Given that their lessons are mainly focused on reading, he tells her this level of writing is actually outstanding. Well done." Ash starts to blush like crazy, and in classic Gen Z fashion, immediately yeets the topic to something else, asking if he must be really busy these days since she heard the war is over. Roman, almost calling him a little fox, stops himself and instead asks if Urigal still comes to the Queen's palace. Ash replies that he often visits to play with His Highness. Then she wonders aloud why everyone is so busy now that the war is finally over. Roman explains that it's because people are coming back home, Miss Ash. Moreover, he adds, they didn't actually win, so there's also the issue of dealing with everybody's morale. Ash's eyes sparkle instantly, because hello, if people are coming back, does that mean there's going to be some kind of parade? Fancy dresses, parades, and night markets? The thought alone makes her want to bounce like a kid at a carnival. All by herself, Ash processes the moment, while Roman is thinking that yes, it is very likely things will get super festive soon. After all, they need to hide the fact that the war ended in an armistice, not a victory. Majesty, the king, will personally be greeting the army as well, and Urigal will be there with him instead of the queen. Then Roman, in his smooth, low-key way, asks Ash if she would like to accompany him during the parade, if she happens to be free at that time. He casually notes that they should wrap things up now, and Ash, half distracted, just replies with a, sure, sure. But then Ash wonders, why the heck did she even have a fountain pen when she's technically illiterate? And not just any pen, but a really fancy, high-quality fountain pen. Like, this thing screams luxury. Her name is Ash, that's nowhere even close to the engraved initials, CK. So whose initials are these? Mystery unlocked, but not solved. The scene shifts, and Ash is now greeting the Queen and Urigal. She had been wondering when this day would finally come, the moment when the Queen, the concubine, and the baby would all be in the same room. The Queen smiles at Urigal and remarks that he has such a beautiful face. Urigal thanks her gracefully, and the Queen even says, it's so beautiful she'd like to touch it. Ash, meanwhile, is just standing there suffocating in this overly polished environment. Urigal then asks Ash if he can hold the baby prince. He takes the child into his arms and hugs him, promising that soon the little prince is going to receive a really beautiful gift. Ash instantly knows this must be tied to the real reveal of his name. Urigal, oddly enough, seems genuinely fond of Ash today. He tells her that since he's in such a good mood, he's going to grant her one wish. Ash had only ever hoped he'd have a bad day, because honestly, she pitied the Queen, but she neither liked nor hated Urigal. But now this man is acting like some smug benefactor, as if he's tossing a treat to a puppy wagging its tail. The arrogance is unreal. What an absolute asshole. Ash blurts out that she wants ramen. Urigal, confused, asks what that even is. She hurriedly smiles and says she's joking. Instead, she makes her real wish clear. She wants the Queen's budget to be increased right away. Because let's be real, the king and his concubine are going to go live happily ever after anyway, while the Queen remains stuck in unhappiness. That is why Ash has to carefully think about what she can and cannot change, as well as what she can get out of this strange situation. Before leaving, Urigal calls out to her and says he hopes she gets prettier by the next time they meet. That leaves Ash standing there, completely baffled, wondering what in the actual world he meant by that. There are countless stories about love. People love other people and sing about love, but she wonders why so many of those stories never end well. She is certain that the king and Urigal will find their happy ending. Yet what about Sir Alex and Sir Mio, both of whom love someone who will never return their feelings? And what about all the others whose names are never even mentioned? Are they truly content with merely being able to love someone from afar? She has been thrown into this world, and it feels as though she is floating in the middle of an endless ocean on a pitch-black night, with nothing to guide her. She cannot even row the boat because she is too frightened of what might happen if she does. All she can do is hope that her small boat does not get shipwrecked. Yet the storm is already on its way, looming closer. He leaves her with words that he hopes she will be prettier the next time they meet, handing the prince into her care before taking his leave. Alex and Mio rush over to him, both frantic with concern, asking if he is unharmed. She thinks bitterly of how overprotective they are, wishing in her heart that they would tumble down the stairs and break their stupid noses. Her eyes dart to Mio, who is smiling, and she knows instantly where this path is leading. Mio knows it too, though neither of them voice it aloud. Later that night, she sits out on the balcony, savoring the quiet, thinking how a can of beer would be the perfect end to a day like this. One might wonder why she is in such an unusually good mood, but the reason is simple.